So our next speaker, really excited to have uh, Hillary Ashton, who is the Chief Product Officer at Teradata, amongst us. Hillary joined recently, but Teradata as a Chief Product Officer. She has responsibility not only over all the engineering, product definition, but also on the research innovations. And Hillary has a very interesting and very strong background in data and everything data. But Hillary, without your bio is there, and love to welcome you. And if you can uh, let us know about your thoughts about data and AI. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Sujit. And what a great event. You guys are running such a fantastic virtual event here. So I'm very excited to have an opportunity to present. And I am just trying to see if I can make it present PowerPoint, but let's go ahead and see if this works. Are you able to see a slide deck?
Yes.
Great.
Not slideshow. Yes, now.
Yes,
Right.
okay. Sorry about that. I was hoping to, just present PowerPoint, but you've got the whole desktop now. So just a bit of background. Yeah, so I recently joined Teradata just about a year ago. Prior to Teradata, I was at a company called PTC. And so even during my time there, I was very excited about the opportunity that 5G represents from a data standpoint. And I appreciate Jason's comments, the checks in the mail, Jason. I think the notion of data and the data model are a key a pivot that I'll help kind of bridge here a bit. So Teradata is a platform technology company. We have a flexible modern software stack that helps our customers, and our customers, I'll talk about them in just a second here, are some of the biggest customers out there. And so if we look at that, it's really a cloud data analytics platform, and we enable a broad range of ecosystem capabilities within our platform. And so because of that hybrid multi-cloud world that we're all in, that 5G is accelerating, really, we've have a tremendous opportunity to unlock some of that data, leveraging data models, in order to help our customers leverage both work at the edge, as well as pulling in all of that data that 5G is driving into their ecosystem for intelligent, data-driven analytic decisions. And so I mentioned, some of our customers, many of whom some of you are probably on the line right now. Certainly some of the speakers are some of our customers, but we are driving data and analytics across some of the largest companies out there. And while I won't go into a variety of names because I don't want to leave anybody out, I'll just say that many of the global businesses in the world are using Teradata today, and they're asking us about 5G and how they can leverage 5G in healthcare, in life sciences, certainly in manufacturing, and across the board, including, of course, logistics. And so if we pivot from there into, the story of data, and we think about, moving from counting things, which essentially is what computers started out doing, into the richness of analytic decision making, we can start to answer some of the most important questions that 5G provides the answers to. And so I really like this notion of the decentralized at the node, making intelligent decisions for that moment in time, whether that's a robot on a factory floor, whether that's an augmented reality experience for a service technician, whether that's somebody standing in front of an ATM, but also centralizing that data, bringing all of that data back to a central, even if it's fragmented, repository that allows broader decision making to happen in conjunction with the tremendous amount of data that 5G is driving for our customers. And so counting things really evolves into observing behaviors through all events, the streaming of those events through the 5G data, and wireless really amplifies, of course, the number of connected devices that we have out there. And so we're talking about devices, systems of devices, systems of systems, and that evolution of analytics started with transactions, but now our customers are really starting to understand the importance of those systems of interactions and capturing a series of interactions that is really an event that are correlated with those transactions. And so the value comes from learning and understanding and ultimately predicting behaviors so that whether you're driving the next best offer or next best action for a customer in a retail environment, whether you're predicting and avoiding a robot crash before it happens, or whether you're enabling farmers to make intelligent decisions about their crops and what they need to do next. All of that comes from the ability to leverage all of this data and, of course, taking it as a whole and predicting those outcomes. And so we can start to understand not just what happened, but what's going to happen, and also not just what we did, but what the best thing is to do next. And so as that data explodes, we start to look at, in some of the more recent presenters, we're starting to talk about machine learning and artificial intelligence in order to cope with this vast amount of data that we have out there. And so if counting goes to ML, and from deterministic to uncertain and probabilistic models are driving all of these new and better outcomes, not just for businesses, but really for society as a whole, the value of 5G becomes tremendous. I think we're just starting to understand some of the use cases, and I suspect that over the next 5 years, we'll see rapid acceleration and find brand new use cases that we didn't even imagine today. Of course, artificial intelligence gives us the ability to look at patterns and ability to include different types of data and use them to see if we can make even better decisions in some of those use cases I just went through. And so 5G and 6G takes those existing use cases really to the next level. And so if we think about all of this is really dependent on data, but moreover, I think making intelligent decisions based on the data and driving those AI models out to the edge and bringing back those outcomes and the success or failure of those outcomes back to a central hub in order for the entire system to start making better and better decisions to drive better and better, we call it optimized outcomes, right? And so if we think of optimization as having sort of real world constraints, and then making sure that you're feeding the optimization engine the best set of data that's ever evolving in order to drive optimal decisions, 5G really gives us the ability to drive optimized outcomes. And so there's a broad range of use cases. And again, going back to what Jason was just talking about, not just the data, but the data models. And I'll spend just a minute talking about data models in terms of, we have a place for this data. Here's how we can drive value from that data set. We have already, of course, created an extension of our telco data model to include 5G, but we've done that across all the data models. And so in manufacturing, that means a vast expansion of sensor data as it becomes more realistic to capture and do something with more and more points of data at the point of a sensor, just as an example. And so we see that in high-speed transportation, consumer smart homes, remote medical capabilities, broadcasting. We see that in venues. I think we're just talking a little bit about that in AR and VR, in gaming, obviously, but also perhaps those vast numbers of polygons with vast sets of data in the military, in the government, as well as in medical and manufacturing spaces as well. Of course, we could probably spend an entire time on the automotive space and smart cars and smart driving and smart traffic, and perhaps we'll do that another day. But it's a very exciting space as well. And so, a great question ahead of us is really: should we centralize or decentralize the data and the analysis for the betterment of business decisions and really, as I said, sort of society as a whole? And I think the answer really truly is both. And so we need a decentralized set of decision making, but we also need the ability to bring all of that data together. And so if you have embedded analytics, AI, and ML at the edge, which moves the focus of computation out to the edge, and of course has some really exciting business opportunities there, but also bringing back that data so that all the rest of the system or system of systems can start to leverage the intelligence that that one sensor is providing. And so it's very much like the human brain. We need to provide a fast reaction, oh, that water is really hot, as well as looking at sequences of events and learning best outcomes from those sequences of events. I'm going to wrap up here and just mention that a colleague of mine, Artur, is providing some more details on some of this in the next panel, AI and the wireless inseparable future. I'm super excited to see him present. That time just starts just after 11:20. And with that, I will open the forum to any questions.
Thanks, Hilary, for the excellent presentation. I have questions coming in, but if I may ask you, start asking you a question myself. So you rightfully mentioned decentralized versus centralized, and there is much movement going on towards what we call edge intelligence, and from edge intelligence, more and more towards collaborative edge intelligence. A lot moving there. But my question is, from a service provider perspective or a technology platform perspective, how can you scale a technology platform across edges? I mean, the definition of edge can be as decentralized as possible. It can be my cell phone or my glass. The edge can be an enterprise edge. The edge can be the edge, the base station. It can be really, really decentralized, right? So from a platform perspective, how have you been thinking, and is it at all possible to scale a service or a platform from such a distributed edge intelligence all the way to the centralized cloud? And what are the challenges?
Yeah, so it's a really fantastic question. We've been talking quite a lot about what's possible now at the edge, and then what do we think is possible in the future, right? So where is that going? And I think everybody on the call, I'm sure, is aware of the notion that Moore's law is slowing down. And I wonder personally if we might not see a resurrection, if you will, of Moore's law as we see some of this edge capability accelerating. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity for all of the intelligence, right, to be dropped off at the edge. But at the same time, especially in certain scenarios, whether that's traffic or whether that's manufacturing floors, even if you provide all the intelligence that you knew 3 seconds ago to the edge, there's new things that are happening in sub-seconds that you couldn't. It tends to be, I won't say impossible because nothing's impossible, but the upper limit, right, of trying to get that to the edge. And so I think there'll be some really interesting new technology breakthroughs as a result of this. And as I said earlier, I think we're just starting to understand some of the use cases. I think we really think we know the use cases, but usually with new technology, we are just starting to really appreciate that.
Thank you, Hilary. A question from Don Kimball Corvo. He's a board member. Machine learning depends on labeling the data sets correctly. How do we detect if a set of alleged kitty cat pictures are in fact a bunch of doggies? Labeling problem.
It's a great problem. I think there's a great NPR set about that exact problem. I'll go back and maybe find a link for folks. I think machine learning and artificial intelligence is getting smarter and smarter. Humans can still do quite a lot differently and better in some scenarios. And so certainly that problem set is a well-known problem set in the market, and I think we see the machines improving outcomes and not yet perfect, we'd say.
Thanks, Hilary. I will, let's see, there's another question. In millimeter wave and terahertz, the amount of data to be collected will be astronomically high when compared to today's 4G, or even sub 6 gigahertz. How does Teradata see this data tsunami impacting the current algorithms and methods used for AI and inferencing? And Hillary, whenever you come to a event like this, expect all these tough questions.
Yeah, of course. No, and I don't pretend to have all the answers. In fact, Artur is probably a much deeper data scientist and knowledgeable person. Maybe he'll address some of these in his next session. But what I would say is, obviously the function is moving data, and I think I think it's a challenging problem, to be sure. We're not at Teradata. We are well known for managing giant volumes of data at scale, and so we see a tremendous opportunity to continue to iterate on that and watch. We look forward to 5G redlining us a little bit. We haven't quite seen that yet, but I think we're very excited about the opportunities because 5G really takes advantage of some of what we're known for and what we've been built for.
Thanks, Hillary. So, as you mentioned, first of all, thank you for the high-level perspective and also going deep into some of the topics, important topics. And as you mentioned that this will be followed up with a panel planned accordingly. And so let me get to that panel. And Artur, you'll take over and I'll get some rest. Thank you, Artur. Thanks, Hillary, again.
Thank you so much.